be had that is really above us. And I think that is the part that we really need to get to. So hopefully at All-Star, we can have an opportunity and a conversation, because at this time, we something needs to change. It's actually disgusting. So I'm glad that Chelsea had an opportunity to speak up and had an opportunity to show that what we've been going through, and we're going to continue to go through until we have that conversation. So
yeah, what you go through is nothing special. What you go through is nothing special, nothing unique, nothing that needs to be addressed, nothing that a conversation needs to be had about. It's just a bunch of WNBA players crying because a bunch of people that they don't know are saying mean things and leaving nasty messages in their DMs that they have the right to ignore in the first place.
This league never wanted to grow. They wanted the money, they wanted the viewers, but they wanted to still feel insulated. Insulated. It goes back to the article that I covered on this channel a couple of years ago, where they interviewed WNBA fans, old guard fans that had been a fan of this league, and they were talking about, yeah, we don't love the fact that now we go to the arena. Number one, prices that went up. Number two, it's not like it used to be. We used to actually get done watching games at the arena, and then we'd go to the club with the players.
Clark scored a franchise record 45 points against the Seattle Storm. And on top of that, she handed out 10 assists, making her the first player in WNBA history to post a 40-point, 10-assist game. Not the first Fever player to do it, not the first guard in the league to do it, the first player, period, in a league that's been playing games for close to 30 seasons now.
She tired of y'all talking about her. Oh, man, I knew it. I told my son, I say, bro, I believe Caitlin Clark is going to come in this game and just lay it down because of all of the media, all of these negative attention, these negative headlines that keep coming out about her each and every day.
And here's the detail that makes this even heavier than it sounds. Clark did this while playing on a restricted workload, capped under 30 minutes on the floor for the night. She wasn't grinding out 38 or 40 minutes to pad a stat line late in a blowout. She got to 45 points and 10 assists in a shortened window, which means the actual pace of production was absurd. Kelsey Mitchell added 30 points of her own, and the two of them combined for 75 of Indiana's 110 total points that night. Seattle doubled Clark for most of the game, sending extra bodies at her every time she touched the ball, and she still got to 45. That is not a hot shooting night where everything happens to fall. That's a player operating on a different level than everyone else on the floor, including her own teammates, and they had a great night too.
Caitlin Clark was on a minutes restriction, and for being under 30 minutes, putting 45 points down, 10 assists, actually, I know she got 6 stocks, but let's just see what exactly they were. She got 4 steals and 2 blocks, and I gotta tell you, she came in clutch.
Naturally, the internet did what it always does with a night like this. Clips of the game spread across every platform within hours of the final buzzer, and the framing was basically identical no matter which account you scrolled past. This is a player who just keeps adding to a resume that other people can spend all the time they want talking about, arguing about, and dissecting, while she's the only one actually doing it on the court. The stat itself, 40 points and 10 assists in the same game, had never happened in the history of the WNBA before this week. Not with Diana Taurasi, not with Sue Bird, not with anyone. That's the level of rare we're talking about.
A'ja Wilson sending a message to Caitlin Clark. I'm going to see you at All-Star Weekend. And when I see you, we going to talk. And it ain't going to be just me. It's going to be me. It's going to be Chelsea Gray. It's going to be all the activists in the WNBA. We're going to come knocking on your front door at the hotel room and say, listen up, Caitlin. You need to come out and publicly denounce all of your fans. You need to come out and publicly say, if you guys are fans of me, you need to stop watching the...
Now, here's where things get complicated, and honestly, this has been building for a while now. A'ja Wilson has spent a good chunk of the last year and a half talking about Caitlin Clark, or more specifically, talking about the attention around Caitlin Clark, without ever really talking to her directly. Back in December, in a Time magazine interview, Wilson said the hype around Clark's rise erased WNBA history for a minute, and she followed that up by saying, "I don't like that." She was careful with her wording, too. Her exact quote was that the hype wasn't a hit at me, and that her actual issue was with fans overlooking the players who had already built the league long before Clark ever set foot on a WNBA court.
Caitlin Clark, I'm sure you saw, just became the all-time scoring leader in women's college basketball. I'm curious, where would you rank her amongst all-time college players, in your opinion?
Ooh, that's tough because you got to win one. I feel like that college is one of those spaces where you got to win one for them to even have your name in the conversation. And it took me 3 years to win mine, so it's hard. But congratulations to her. I know my teammate KP was just like, yeah, that's huge. That's a lot of points, and that don't take that for granted. They were getting them up 100%. So congratulations to her. But I think she got to win her one to really kind of have her name in that. But I mean, she's always going to be a great player for Iowa and for the game as a whole. But yeah, winning one is pretty huge in college. So when she gets her one, if she gets her one, then y'all can have the conversation.
That's a fair point to raise. Once. Wilson has 3 championships and 4 MVP awards to her name, and she's absolutely earned the right to speak on the league's history and what came before this current wave of popularity. But here's the thing. She keeps bringing it up. Almost every single time there's a media cycle around Clark, whether it's a magazine profile, an award ceremony, or a random press availability, Wilson ends up somewhere in that conversation, weighing in on the fans, weighing in on how attention gets distributed across the league, weighing in on race and privilege, and who gets credit for what. That contrast right there is basically the whole story of this saga. One player keeps doing interviews about optics, fairness, and who's getting talked about too much. The other player just dropped 45 points and 10 assists in under 30 minutes of floor time and let that speak for itself.
I think that ultimately the issues around Caitlin Clark are not largely about officiating, and that particular incident is not about whether a foul should have been called at the time in the game or whether that was ultimately a flagrant on review. And I've come to know Caitlin really well. She's an incredible player and also an incredible person. And she wants to focus on being the best player she can. And she's become a bit of a political football in this country. And I think it's incredibly unfair to her. I don't think that issue is ultimately about officiating. It's sort of, it's become political ping pong with her. And she's a young woman who's trying to improve her game, right, focus on being the best player as she can. And I don't even think it's fair to her that this has become a separate storyline about one foul should have been called at the time or should have been called a flagrant.
Adam Silver hasn't sat this one out either, and that matters more than people might think. Just this past week, the commissioner addressed the ongoing swirl around Clark directly, calling her a political football in comments to reporters, and he sidestepped a specific question about a suspension report tied to one of her recent run-ins with officials on the court. That phrase alone tells you a lot. Silver is essentially saying that Clark has become something bigger than a basketball player at this point. She's become a symbol that different groups fight over, way beyond anything that actually happens between the lines.
Conceivable Silver and the Board of Governors from both leagues will escalate a review of her stats. You almost have to at this point. This league's a train wreck. Silver did not address his role in the Thomas suspension Tuesday, but sources familiar with the situation said Engelbert initially believed during the evaluation process that because no foul was called on the court against Thomas, a follow-up suspension seemed too steep of a discipline. You have DEI officials who have no business officiating a junior high game. This is me talking, not the article. And everybody knows this. It's like in the NCAA. And these women and men and DEI hires of the WNBA are the worst.
This isn't the first time Silver has stepped in on her behalf, even in a small way. Back when Clark took a hard, flagrant foul from Kennedy Carter in 2024, Silver publicly called it a welcome to the league moment. But he also made a specific point of saying it wasn't out of the ordinary and shouldn't be blown out of proportion in either direction, protecting the incident from turning into something bigger than a physical foul in a competitive league. But when the actual commissioner of the league is fielding direct questions about suspension reports and using phrases like political football to describe one specific 23-year-old player, that tells you the noise around Clark isn't dying down anytime soon. no matter how many times other players insist publicly that it's not personal. There's something almost funny about the optics here, too. You've got one of the most powerful executives in American sports going out of his way to shield a rookie-turned-superstar from getting swallowed whole by a media cycle that's bigger than she is. That's not a small thing. Commissioners don't usually get this involved in individual player narratives unless something has genuinely outgrown the sport itself.
Is going to be very important for the W. They could come out of that weekend having a hell of a lot fewer fans. All right. And you may be like, well, oh, they're going to run the homophobes and the racists off. No, they're going to run sports fans off that just don't want to hear about this bullshit. That understand if you put yourself in a public spotlight, you're going to get some creeps to come out. I mean, Caitlin Clark's had these stalkers. Sophie Cunningham's had these stalkers. You notice how nobody talks about that? The media doesn't talk about that? No.
Here's the part of this whole situation that makes things genuinely awkward. Wilson and Clark are teammates right now, not rivals on separate rosters where the tension can stay at a comfortable distance. Both of them are on the same team for the 2026 WNBA All-Star Game, scheduled for July 25th in Chicago as part of the league's 30th season celebration. And the rosters weren't even picked the usual way this year. Legends Cynthia Cooper and Teresa Weatherspoon served as honorary general managers and drafted the teams live on ESPN, turning the whole selection process into its own broadcast event.
Oh, I don't know. Something in the milk ain't clean about this. Asia Wilson leads with 308,000 votes. Y'all are tripping. Y'all expect the general public to just shove everything into our mouth. Just take everything. Y'all throw it at us, huh? Now, I'm not coming on here hating on Asia Wilson. I'm not saying she's not going to accumulate votes. Ain't nobody saying all that. But she's leading the votes. Girl, this is not true. I mean, Caitlin Clark, this is only Caitlin Clark's third year in the league, right? Asia Wilson ain't never turned out this many votes, ever. And this is what, year 8, year 7 for her? She ain't never turned out this many votes. This is ridiculous.
Wilson is heading into her 8th career All-Star selection, and she's doing it off the back of a season that looks like peak form for her specifically, averaging north of 25 points a game and sitting at or near the top of the league's scoring leaderboard. Clark, on the other side of that same locker room, has been putting up career-high numbers across almost every category this season, and the 45-point, 10-assist night against Seattle is just the loudest, most recent example of a stretch where she's been scoring and setting up teammates at a rate nobody in Indiana Fever franchise history has ever come close to producing. So picture the actual scene here for a second. Two of the best players currently in the WNBA sharing a bench, sharing a locker room, heading into a celebratory all-star weekend built around honoring the league's 30-year history. And one of them has spent well over a year publicly processing her feelings about the other's popularity in national interviews. That's the exact setup fans and media are watching for when these two share a court on purpose next week in Chicago.
Asia Wilson's going to go to Caitlin Clark and say, Caitlin, here. She's going to hand Caitlin Clark a letter. Caitlin Clark is going to read the letter and say, you want me to say this? And Asia Wilson's going to be like, no, you're going to say this. These players are going to put pressure on Caitlin Clark over All-Star break to come out and publicly denounce her fans. Publicly denounce her fans and say, hey, if you act like fans, I don't want you as my fan.
Let's just say out loud what many people are already saying quietly. Some of these veteran players are frustrated, and that frustration keeps getting repackaged as concern about history, concern about narratives, concern about fair coverage. But strip away all that careful language, and what's actually left is a group of accomplished, decorated players who aren't used to sharing the spotlight this dramatically. And now they have to, whether they like the terms of it or not. Clark didn't take a single thing away from anyone by scoring 45 points. She didn't take anything from anyone by handing out 10 assists in under 30 minutes of playing time. She simply played basketball at an incredibly high level, And the numbers did what numbers naturally do when someone performs that well.
It's that I don't really listen to, honestly, because I'm in season. I have other things that we need to worry about than what other people have to say. I have a scout. I have 11 other minds on my team in my locker room that we got to make sure that we're on the same mindset. So I really can't give you the best answer on that because I really don't pay any attention to it. My goal is just to go out there and be the best that I can be for my teammates, both on and off the court, and we're going to go out there and be us.
Wilson has said publicly, more than once, that she's going to keep doing her own thing regardless of what happens with Clark's fan base or the attention swirling around her. That's a completely reasonable sentiment on its own. But if that's genuinely true, then the constant returning to this exact topic in interview after interview, year after year, kind of undercuts the message a little bit. If a player is truly unbothered by something, she usually doesn't need to explain 3, 4, 5 separate times across 18 months exactly why she isn't bothered by it. It's a sport that settles almost every argument on the court, every single night, in ways that talk shows, magazine profiles, and press conference sound bites simply cannot touch. Clark isn't clapping back at anyone in interviews. She isn't posting subtle jabs online. She's averaging historic numbers night after night and letting the box score handle whatever talking actually needs to happen. That approach, quietly outproducing all the surrounding noise instead of engaging with it directly, tends to age a whole lot better than the alternative over time.
Very interested to see if Caitlin Clark will bow down to the black lesbians and Asia Wilson.
So now we get to next week, Chicago, the league's 30th season celebration. Wilson and Clark in the same building, wearing the same jersey for a game that's supposed to showcase everything good about where the WNBA has come from, not extend a media saga that's been quietly simmering since 2024. There's already chatter floating around that Wilson wants a word with Clark whenever she sees her at All-Star Weekend. Whether that ends up being an actual private conversation between the two of them, or just more comments dropped courtside to reporters standing nearby. She's going to keep scoring in bunches against defenses that throw everything they have at her. She's going to keep setting up her teammates for easy looks. And she's going to keep breaking records that nobody else in this league's nearly 30-year history has ever come close to touching. The 45-point, 10-assist night against Seattle wasn't some random one-off explosion. It was a preview of what the rest of this season very likely looks like from here.
The organization didn't defend their own fans that pay them money out of their pockets. They just went along to get along, got along to get along. You get the point. And it's because they're all scared. They don't want to say anything. Oh my God. We don't want to be viewed as an ism or a phobe or whatever. This league is tiring. God.
And that's really the frustrating part for anyone hoping this entire situation quietly settles down on its own. Every single time a veteran player brings up fans, narratives, or history supposedly getting erased, Clark answers back with another box score that drags the conversation back toward basketball, whether people actually want it to go there or not. If these players genuinely want the story to shift back toward the actual game itself, the fastest and most effective way to do that is to outplay her on the court, not to try out-talking her in interviews and magazine profiles. Nobody is stopping Asia Wilson from having another fully deserved MVP caliber season. She's clearly more than capable of that. But you don't win the attention argument by talking about attention over and over again. You win it the exact same way Clark has been winning it all season long, which is by putting up numbers that nobody can seriously argue with.
This is the stuff that bothers me because, especially as me as a black person, we want equality. We want to be respected, right? We want to be treated like everybody else. That's what we're part of American history. We're the first Americans, just like everybody else. Crispus Attucks, look him up. Black man, first American that died for this country. Okay, so we want to be treated equally. But when I hear this type of stuff, it really disgusts me because you're setting us back 1,000 years, bro. I don't want to hear that nonsense from Asia Wilson. It's an unwritten rule. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not an unwritten rule. You're just being.
Chicago will be really interesting to watch. Not necessarily because of anything that might get said between two teammates who clearly see this current era of the league very differently from each other, but because for one single weekend, everyone gets to watch the two biggest ongoing storylines in the entire WNBA share a court on purpose, under one roof, for a game built to celebrate the league's history rather than argue over it. Adam Silver will be watching from wherever commissioners watch these things. At the end of the day, this whole saga boils down to one very simple, very repeatable pattern. One side keeps talking about attention, fairness, and history. The other side keeps scoring 45 points and dishing out 10 assists in under 30 minutes. History tends to remember the second column a lot longer than the first.